Stand and say the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you all for coming today. We'll call the meeting to order. First is the agenda approval. I see there's some changes here. The financials under old business 6A will be not available today. Thank you. Any other changes?
And we have two property discussions to, for item 7D.
Alrighty, thank you, Mary. And with that, if I can get a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public input. Seeing as we have no public here, we will close public input and move on to the consent agenda. Same thing, was there any changes or corrections? Without any, if I can get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and as we just discussed that old business 6A is not available, we'll move on to 7, new business. ICS Assessment Summary.
I passed out the spreadsheets, and I apologize, even at 11 by 17, they're still very small. The first few pages are a very detailed summary of each of the rental properties. And they have done a really great job of going through and really looking at every building and then scheduling some current repairs or things that are necessary, and then looking out to the future. We went 10, 15 years, I believe, and really looked at what kinds of things do we need to be prepared for. The report is available online, so once ICS and I have a chance to get the training, we'll be able to update this as we need. But there's a couple things that I just want to make you aware of. So they're grouped right here by the apartment buildings. And then a couple of things that we did is include in our budgeting that one unit would be completely turned every year. So, and by completely turned, everything from sort of the ceiling to the flooring, everything would be redone. We may or may not actually have to do that, but it's really just we're scheduling that, you know, we're gonna just do the whole thing. Generally, there's only a couple of things when it comes to Cornerstone that really we're gonna have to pay attention to. The first one is the heating system. That was put in when the building was originally done in 96, I believe it is, 94. So that's scheduled as something that we really need to put on our radar. And then the other thing is the fire suppression system is something that we're going to probably have to upgrade. Right now, we're grandfathered in. And then there's some issue with the concrete drives and sidewalks. So there's a couple things that are a little bit more pressing on that one, but generally, you know, they're not doing too bad. Meadow Edge and Meadow View, they're virtually identical. And you can see there again, we have this lump sum for all of the various apartments that are going through. The one big item or bigger item is that we do have to probably do something about the garage or garbage enclosure that needs to be taken care of. And then, there's one other thing. We're gonna start working on redoing some of the interior doors. They're hollow core right now, and so we're gonna wanna start replacing those. The next property, Regency.
I
Oops, sorry.
just have a question about
Sure.
those windows. So, when D.W. Jones were here, they suggested some cosmetic things to feel more welcome. And that would just come out of the funds because it's just cosmetic, right?
And if there's something specific that we want to, this is the first time that you've ever had any sort of detail about these buildings and had any ability to really think and plan about what's coming up and necessary for the specifics. So if there's some things that we want to sort of plan for, we can add those into
Okay.
this.
Even if they're cosmetic.
Even if they're cosmetic, or we can include it as kind of a separate line item that says, here we have our capital needs, but then there's these other things that are smaller value or more cosmetic or more quality of life kinds of things that we can do. The Regency is really the apartment building that really needs a lot of work. There is been very little that has been done with the building since it was built, and then when the HRA acquired it, it was like at year 17, and we've done a few things, but not a ton. So there's a lot of recommendations on the, for the need list of things that should be done. We have some resources that are available through the small cities and the set aside. And the things that we had targeted on doing for that program is to replace the vinyl or the carpet in all of the common spaces with a laminate vinyl tile, glue down. The sliding doors really should be replaced. There's 8 of them, I believe. And then there's some real concerning issues with the wiring. They have a storage room with all of the meters located on the inside, and they're not working, and so there's some really sort of sketchy things. And then the boiler on this one is right now being held together with duct tape and baling wire. So we really need to be thinking about a replacement. What I have asked is, can we look at a different system? Right now, that has one big boiler that serves the entire building. There's a lot of more efficient options that are available. So we are going to look at those potential options. I think we have all summer to do that, and I think that we're really gonna need to replace the heating system before fall hits. I don't think that we're gonna have enough resources with the small cities program and the money that you've put aside to do all of the things. So I just got this Friday. So I'll look through this again and then put together a bid of kind of the most priority items. And then we can see what we can't handle within those other resources, and then have to make a decision about what to do for that. But I do know that we're really going to have to move that heating system up. We'll have to address it, because I'm concerned. And the way that particular system works, it's either all or nothing. So either there's heat or there isn't, because the entire building is connected to one system. So one of the things that I had asked about is, like, for the Meadowview and Meadows Edge, each apartment has kind of its own loop. And so if one pump goes down, it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire building is out, it's just one section of the building. And so is there any way we can use some of the existing copper tubing or tubing that's there and convert it in some way to have a more efficient system? And that's one of the questions that we'll be looking and exploring at over the next couple months.
Mary, I just got a question when I'm glancing through here, and so demo existing garages and then new paving, so is the plan just to demo, it's not to rebuild, it's just to demo?
Well, so what we talked about is that actually where those garages are built, they're on, almost right on the southern property line.
Yep.
And they are low with relation to the land that's behind it. So all of the water runs right into the garages and rots it out. It would be nearly impossible to try and figure out within the scope of about 2 feet how to get the water to change direction and not continue to have an issue with those garages. However, the HRA does actually own the adjoining lot to the west. So our conversation was, what if we tore those garages down, moved the garages to the adjacent lot, and then, you know, rearranged and did some things there, because then we would have the ability to handle the water much more appropriately and do some things. So the garages that are there are really,
They're in poor shape.
they are in horrible shape,
Yeah.
and they're so bad that even fixes won't repair them for very long. And because of these water issues, there's not a whole lot on that backside of the garage. It's gonna just continue to rot out immediately, because all the water goes there from the garage and then from the adjoining properties, and then just runs and sits there, and then ends up being sort of an ice heave. So I know that the residents there really appreciate the garages, so I think that one of the things that we would have to think about is, does it make sense to move the garages to the adjoining lot? And then what does that look like? Or do we just tear these down and do nothing about garages? So I think that they're okay for now. I don't think that they're gonna fall down, but they are also not really repairable. And so at some point we'll have to decide
Okay.
when is the time to remove them.
Yeah, the budget is just 2027, that's why I brought it up now.
Yeah, and the reason it is in 2027 is because they are in really poor shape. We talked about sort of being able to refunnel traffic and move it around and see, and I didn't have all of the lot details to go through that to see if it's feasible to move the garages, but what I do know is that even rebuilding them in their existing location is worrisome, just because we can't really move the dirt the way that we need to build up enough dirt, so we'd actually push it all to the neighbor then.
Are the garages like right on the property line, or is there a couple feet?
There's about, well, I'm guessing that whatever the rear setback is
what's there?
Yeah, there is hardly any space, and it is a significant drop.
I was just kind of curious if a concrete spillway could be formed back there to take the water from the adjacent property, channel it into that spillway. The water coming off the garage could go into that spillway, and then it could be taken out to the curb, and it can go into the storm sewer from there.
And I think that there is a spillway of some, we have pictures of all of it that we'll be able to access, so I can bring the pictures up when I have a better sense of sort of our priorities. But I don't think it's enough. And the comment that ICS said is that we can't move enough dirt in order to really solve the issue.
With the room
So,
that's there.
Yeah,
And then you talked about renovating, Regency needs a lot of work overall. One apartment per year, but what kind of a vacancy rate do we have in order to accommodate, okay, well, this is vacant now, let's get in there, rehab it. You know, I'm just wondering, it seems to me, if I remember right, it is pretty well occupied.
we have vacancies there now because we have a couple of units that are down.
Okay.
And so as soon as we are able to get those, and there were 2 units that were really, really, really damaged. So the intent was to use the Small Cities program to fix those. Once they get fixed, I don't think that we're gonna have problems keeping that building full.
Okay.
Then the question becomes, do we really, again, if somebody's occupied or living there, do we really need to renovate it? Probably not. But if we just sort of keep in our mind that we have it ongoing and we can either then set it aside or not use it that year, and all the better. So if we just sort of keep it as a planning tool that, you know, we may have these expenses as we're looking at our overall budget with regard to these properties, I think it's a good idea. Especially if you start looking at some of the expenses that, you know, when we have to start doing re-roofing and re-siding and those kinds of things, these properties, as they stand right now, would not be able to support those kinds of high capital costs. So the greatest thing about this assessment is it's gonna help us plan far enough in advance so that we can figure out what kinds of opportunities do we have to seek for funding for those? How do we potentially, you know, set aside some resources so that we're able to do that? So I'm really pleased with the level of detail that ICS was able to provide us. The first few pages are the minute details, and then as you go back in the report, it summarizes it. So you'll see one that just has a column for each of the buildings, and then one is by year and line items. So you have a really good sense of, you know, it started with the real micro detail and then goes back up to the high level. And these are all reports that we'll be able to produce on a pretty regular basis. And again, right now, the one that's the most challenged is the Regency. So we're gonna have to really focus on that building for a while to figure out how to get that back up to a reasonable place. If you look at sort of the quality, most of them are poor.
I was looking at all the pores.
Yeah, so we are gonna really have to be mindful of thinking about that. There are a couple of resources that we might be able to access. I haven't done any significant research on any of them. And that's something that once we finish with the small cities, we can take a look at and see if it's worthwhile to pursue any one of these other external sources to help us get Regency back up to where it needs to be.
So, Mary, on this report that's really small,
Yep,
they've got the column for priority, 1, 2, and 3, it looks like. So is priority 1, is that most needed, or is priority 3 most needed?
priority
Second from the last column.
1 is the most needed.
Okay.
Because the column before that says it's poor
Okay.
or good.
And then some of the ones that are even like priority 1, but still have a, oh yeah, priority 1 is most needed, because you're right, Shar, if you look at the column before, it says condition, and then if you look at some of the conditions where it's good, you'll see that there's a priority 3.
I just figured there's more priority ones on the whole table, so they're the most important.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of poor.
There's a lot of priority ones on there.
Although it's mostly Regency and Cornerstone, so that's
Yeah.
the good news.
Yeah.
Because at
They
least
are
it's not
older.
all of them.
And they're
Right.
older buildings.
Yeah, they are older buildings.
How much funding do we actually have available right now?
Right now, we have 200, well, in total, we had 112 from the grant and then 100 from the SAHA funds that we set aside. So that's 212. We used 58 of it for the decks that were out of compliance, so that gives us, what, 160-ish?
So enough to do the heat at least.
So if and that's the question that we could consider is, do we want to make the heat the priority and just do that? Or do we want to do some of these other, we can get a lot more things done that are lower value. So for instance, we could do the flooring, we could do the
but
sliding doors.
I thought you said the heat had to be done.
Well, it does.
You can't live without heat.
You can't
Yeah,
live without
that's
heat in
the
the
issue
winter.
I see.
Well, the problem is, I'm assuming in this first column in 27 is all the priority ones.
Yes,
So
It's
it's
over $1
$1.1 million and we're not even scratching the surface.
right.
So we're so far behind we think we're first. I mean, literally, how are we gonna catch up? And then you look at the financials and we're not adding cash flow, we're shrinking.
Do we have to look at selling something?
Well, I'm just saying, we either have to find a lot of grants or something, or we're very limited what we can do, and the problem's just gonna continue to get worse.
Yeah.
So how are we going to, we got the tool to plan now, but
Right.
we have to figure out how we're gonna generate some revenue to start taking care of some of these things faster.
Right. And I agree with that, and that there are a couple of sources that, especially with Cornerstone, that could be potentially an option. Minnesota Housing has some resources specifically for keeping low-income apartments up and running, a rehabilitation program. So it puts a deferred mortgage on the property again, and of course you have to keep that certain income limit and all of those kinds of things. I have not looked deeply enough at the program to figure out exactly how that fits, but that's one resource that we can definitely tap into, especially for Cornerstone. Regency is another one that we could potentially tap into for some of those kinds of things. The other component of that is I'm not exactly sure if there's a limit on what kinds of repairs we can make. So that's clearly one source that we'll be able to use, yeah.
Is there equity in any of these to be able to refinance and not change the payment and have some cash to do anything?
So we still have a mortgage on Cornerstone. The balance of that is right around $200,000. The payment right now is about $2,000 a month. Cornerstone, we owe free and clear. We always have. It was a deferred mortgage.
Wait. So the first one you said, you actually used Cornerstone for both of them. So you meant Regency, the first one?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yep, sorry. Regency. Regency we purchased to keep it as an affordable unit. It was a tax credit program that was owned by investors, managed by MMCDC. And we were asked to take that on so that it would stay as an affordable building. That is out of the 30-year LIHTC qualification. But we are using it to qualify as a low-income residential property tax. So we get cheaper property taxes as a result of that LIRC, it's called LIRC, funding for that. As a result, both of those could be eligible for that deferred loan program through Minnesota Housing. We could look at potentially borrowing some resources for Cornerstone. We don't have anything that we owe on that. The other thing is that we could look at some of the properties, the bare ground that we're selling now and have the potential to sell as helping to fund that. And then long-term, we're really gonna have to take a hard look at the management, or, you know, how those properties cash flow, and see whether or not, I mean, part of it is a mission statement, as far as especially Cornerstone and Regency, is, but for our involvement, would those properties be available for those very low income? Cornerstone folks come out of homelessness to live there. They can live there for as long as they want to, but they come out of homelessness, and so their rents are really affordable. Regency is just one step up from that, so they, again, it's a really affordable product that is available. Meadowview and Meadows Edge are market rate, but we have kept them market rate for people who make $15 an hour. And so again, if we sell those, is that the mission of the organization? So that's really the question that we have to wrestle with, is once we get a handle on really the true management of the organization and the properties, then I think we have the question about the mission. Is it the mission of the HRA EDA to maintain those properties or not? And if it is, then we need to really figure out, okay, how do we make that happen? If it's not part of the mission, then we can figure out how to move on, offer those for sale and move on with those properties. So there's really this important conversation that we're gonna need to have about the mission and how the properties fit with that mission. And if they do fit, then we have to be okay with barely breaking even. I don't think that we should necessarily ever manage any buildings that don't at least break even. We can't afford to do that, and we can't afford to ask the taxpayers to do that. But we really have to take a hard look about what that means, is to get them to break even.
As of right now, they're not.
Right,
But there's quite a few who are delinquent.
yes.
That would make a huge difference if they all stayed current, obviously. So.
Yes, and I
I'm
asked
not-
Barry to remind DW Jones we need a 30, 60, 90
Yeah.
day total about.
I'm not really fired up about taking a mortgage out on something that's really not getting anywhere, you know,
Yeah.
as far as sustainability. Same with
Interestingly,
taking a loan
Cornerstone
out
is our
against
best
it.
property.
Well,
not.
yeah. My only thought was, you know, you could consolidate these all into one larger loan and probably pick up enough equity to get yourself caught up, potentially. I don't know if it's advantageous to do that right now with interest rates where they're at, but if you do that, going forward, you've got to get yourself on the right track, because then the next step is real trouble if you do that.
I think that we should take a really hard look at some of the other options that are available, but before refinancing in-house at the current market, you know, rates with our local lenders. They treat us very well, and that's not the point. But there's some programs available through Minnesota Housing in particular that really are much more aligned with the struggles with these properties, and so they're much more favorable in exchange for sort of the strings that are attached to them. And again, as long as our mission says that that's the strings that we're gonna serve, you know, those are the folks that we're gonna serve, then the strings aren't that big of a deal. You know, if we have decided that that's who we wanna serve, then it shouldn't be a problem to have the strings that are attached with serving those households. So, this is the first time we've ever had something this detailed on paper for us, and so now we can really figure out how to address it, and then look at some of the things that we can potentially do. I'm actually most concerned about the Meadowview and Meadows Edge properties, not because they need a lot of work, because we're struggling the most with those as far as keeping them full and then keeping them cash flowing. One building has 10 vacancies right now, so,
Yeah, we
well,
didn't
as
get
of
that
2
on-
months ago.
We didn't get that on the financials either.
Yeah, I'll get that. So I still haven't quite figured out what it is that's causing that. If there's a, reputation that the buildings have acquired, that we're gonna have to do something sort of shaking up the tree to figure out how to fix it. I'm not quite sure, but, at least we have some potential to start searching, so. There's no action that you need to take on this. I just thought it was really great information.
So I have a question. So DW Jones every month, you know, seems like they're working on some sort of improvements. Do they do that without working with you? Because should we now then be looking at this list and then what they're requesting? Or are they only doing cosmetic things as a
Repair and
result of?
maintenance.
Yeah.
They do repair and maintenance, because they have to.
Yeah, they're not doing anything significant.
Yeah, okay. Except it costs a lot.
Yeah.
We did, as part of Regency, there was one that we wanna redo all of the flooring in that building. And so a 6-month conversation about having them, you'll notice on the bill list that you got, there was an executive interiors bill that was fairly sizable. We bought flooring by the pallet to get a better deal so that we can, in Regency, replace all of the flooring with the same flooring and then get a better price point. And then this new flooring is replaceable at the piece level. So if a piece goes bad, you can heat it, pull it up, and put a new one down, as opposed to having to rip out the whole carpet or rip out a corner of the linoleum and do those things. And so that was something that I really pushed for. And so that's why you see that bill, is that part of it was to refloor one of the apartments that somebody was gonna move into, but it's also the same kind of flooring we're gonna put everywhere. So that, again, we can get it at a better price by having it at a pallet level. Then we can replace it in the future, but that's the only real big expense.
Where are you storing that at?
I actually think that Justin has it in his shed. So I don't know how much extra he's gonna have at this one pallet, but we'll have to figure that out and decide if we want to build a small storage shed. If we continue to do this, it would help with our ongoing costs if we could buy materials by the pallet and then just store them. But we'll have that conversation if and when we actually get to that point.
Do we have any open garages at Regency that we could use?
Yeah, open is the key word there. They're
Yeah.
Open.
They're
No
open.
doors.
Securable.
Yeah, no,
Nobody's using them right now.
no.
Around.
No, we don't. However, right now, the county is renting a garage from us at 500 Second Street, you know, right over here where you're doing the construction. We have that corner
Yeah.
right over there. We have the corner house that is leased, and then there's a garage kind of back in the back, and the county's using that and renting that from us right now. So once all of this work is done, I foresee that the county will no longer need that garage, which would then be a convenient place for us to store things. Cause it's not very close to that house, and it's lockable, it's got really good storage, that's what the county's been using it for right now.
Okay,
So we have something, we just don't have it right now.
okay. We could just kick them out.
Well, we could do that too.
It's just Bobby.
Yeah.
Let the county board deal with it.
Yeah, those folks.
Alrighty, Well, if we're done with that then, we'll go on to the entry cost assistance program, excuse me.
So a few months ago, we had conversation about the policies associated with the down payment assistance, and we made a few tweaks to it. We upped the purchase price of the home and the amount of resources. We did not have the corresponding question or conversation about that, which is how big of a program do you want this to be in essence? It's a program that isn't easily funded from outside resources. It's something that you have just used your general fund balance to fund. Every year we get potentially 1 or 2 requests. We don't market it a lot for the very reason that we don't really have a set idea. So I included there what we currently have in the portfolio. The way that the program works as for reference is that a homeowner can get up to, or a home purchaser can get up to $7,500. They have 5 years where interest and payments are deferred, and then at the 61st month, then payments and a 4% interest kicks in, and they pay it back over a 5-year period of time. So if they get the full $7,500, the payments are about $130. And it generally, by kicking it out that 5 years, it doesn't impact their mortgage qualification. And then the goal is that within, by 5 years, they should have the capacity to add another $130 onto their monthly bills in order to pay that back. Of the loans, we have some that are currently paying back, and then we have a whole bunch that are gonna be scheduling over the next 2 years or so to start paying back. So the question is sort of twofold. What is the total amount that you're comfortable with this pool? If we say, well, 70,000 is really the size that we wanna have outstanding at any one time. And then once we get payments back, we can loan it back out. Or you can say, 100,000 is an appropriate number or something wherever. And then based on what that decision is, then we can decide, okay, how do we get it to that point? And then how do we market it? The reason that this conversation is becoming more relevant is we are on the cusp of opening up 75 brand new single-family lots. And you have 6 in North Hubbard as well that potential homeowners are going to be, I expect BOD is gonna start construction here this spring. And so there's another group of homeowners that could potentially be interested in the pool. And I'm really interested on how do we respond to them? No, the pool isn't available, or.
Any idea of what, you don't market it, but do you have any idea what the need is? How many, do you think there's a lot of people that would want?
Yes.
Not just want it, but need it?
Yes. Just think about, and these don't have to be new construction homes, it can be any homes. But just think about what the value of homes are right now that are available for sale. And if you think about a household that makes $50,000 a year, or even at 115%, that's $96,000. The most mortgage that they can afford is like $279,000. How many homes do you know that are really under $270,000? So we are not getting a lot of asks because we don't tell really anybody that we have the program. Only the lenders that have used it for their clients in the past know that it exists. I haven't told any new lenders or anything because I don't want to have a run on a program that we really don't have available. We've been able to, as I said, just fund the 1 or 2 a year. We take it out of our general operating and then we just fund those. But given that there's this climate of new construction, I could see that there is a potential need for it. And if it's an area of a program that you want to grow, then we could look at ways to do that. Or if we're fine with where it is, that's great, and we can just continue funding that one or two organically as people find out about it.
Is that something that we can make available just to like this one development, or just?
It's your program and your money, so you can do anything you want within the guidelines of the law. But you can make it however you want. So if you wanted to only do that development or your developments, you could do that. You could make it available countywide. You can really set the parameters of the program because it's your program.
So I'm on Zillow and I'm just tapping on those little red dots. There's about 6 properties, you know, around the area that are under 300,000.
So you're just pulling the money for this out of cash flow?
Mm-hmm.
So you really can't go significantly higher without finding more revenue?
Well, right. So we'd have to identify whether or not this was an important enough project so that we could look at the HRA EDA pool. You get the SAHA money for like 27 and forward. It's roughly 40,000, so that would fund a few loans. And so you could choose that, you know, in 27 and forward, we're gonna allocate all of that money to this pool. And we're gonna grow it that way. And so there's opportunities that we don't have to necessarily grow it out of strictly our levy. There might even be a grant source that I could figure out where we could potentially capitalize it.
Can that SAHA money be used for capital improvements? Guessing not.
Yes.
Because that's we kind of need to prioritize. It looks like, based on the capital issues we have, we kind of need to prioritize some of that probably first, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like with the roughly 70,000 out right now, even if we were comfortable at 100,000,
Yeah.
at 7,500 available per person, that's only 4 more
Mhm.
properties.
It would be great to be able to, you know, have 100-some thousand floating around out there in that program, but we've got buildings falling apart.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not leaving. I'm cold.
It's a little-
Yeah, you see me up there, eh?
Yeah, it did.
So I would, my suggestion would be leave it as it is for now. I mean, it's enticing. I think if it's working good, that's great, but we gotta play a little catch-up first.
I agree with David. We got priorities and
So do you know any of the, like you say, there's 13 open loans now. When are those loans fulfilled? Are they all kind of just sporadic in time frame?
Yeah, they're sporadic in time frame. We have a couple that are almost paid off. And then starting in this year, 2026, I think that we have another batch that is gonna start making payments back.
So do you feel it's been a successful program?
I do. Generally, we've had very few defaults on this program. And it has worked to really get people into homes. And so I think historically, and it's something that's easy to serve countywide because people can buy a home anywhere, and it's available. And so it's one of those programs that I think is a good.
So I wouldn't be opposed to growing it. I mean, if you found another funding source that was limited to only that and can't be used for capital or other things, you know, then I wouldn't be opposed to growing it.
Okay,
You know,
all right.
but not out of cash flow and not out of something that can be used for capital right now.
Okay,
But
Perfect.
there's probably some programs out there. I wouldn't
Yeah,
doubt
I
that
think
you
there
could probably
is.
find 30 grand or something, and
yeah, I
Hopefully.
might be able to do that.
grant or something, yeah.
Yeah,
And it might make some sense. Get some houses filled faster.
So you got the info you need then, Mary?
I do, thank you.
Perfect. 7C, transfer of land to City of Park Rapids for road construction.
So, I think I mentioned it last month, we put out the Heartland Heights development, out for bid and got pricing that was absolutely phenomenal. As a result, we have the capacity to expand the development into the sort of the rest of the road. So if you look at the commercial parcel that was just sold, can you put that on the screen? I was hoping that that's what we would do. Thank you. So the commercial parcel there that is highlighted is the one that was just sold. The city's interest would be that the road that would, from Charles, which is at the end of the parking lot where the yellow line is, would be extended to the east to line up with the road that goes from Highway 34 up to Charles. Right now they call it No Name Road. People use it sort of to get into the Fleet parking lot. They use it to get into Charlie's. The idea is that that road would be extended all the way up to Finley. If you are willing to give up a 66-foot right-of-way or give up 66 feet on the line of 32.19 up to the Finley Street. And so what that would do is allow for the road to be built all the way from the end of Finley Street down and provide another access to Highway 34. And then it would also go through Charles, so people could then turn on Charles and go into Walmart or go all the way across and get out to Henrietta. The parcel that's 19,330 is one that was dedicated as parkland. When you did your development, there was a requirement for the city that you had parkland or cash when you did development, and so you allocated a 1-acre park there. It has become very apparent that that is really never going to be used as a park. So, but part of it is being used as some storm water filtration. The city would like to give what they don't need back. So it would be sort of this exchange where they'll give you as much of that park back to you, which would then really help facilitate if you wanted to ever add to additional apartment or do any other development on that parcel. It would give you more space to do that. And then the other advantage is by having a road where Jeff has marked it green, you could have access from that area and not have to build up any more roads. So you could either come with access for whatever development from the north, from Finley, or from the east, which that road is called Alice. So that you could move either of those two roads to access any development that you would have going on there.
Has the city brought up Alice as far as extending Charles all the way across to Career Path, or?
They have no intentions of doing that.
Okay.
I don't foresee that as ever getting, just based on how the development is. The Johnson's Addition parcel was just purchased by the people who own Charlie's. So that development, or that whole parcel now is gonna be all sewed up with that development, and then we have our apartments, and so there's really nothing that needs to have Charles built out.
Am I correct in Charlie's has changed hands?
Sort of, yes.
All right.
One of the
Or
owners.
the intention.
Yeah, so one of the owners has continued to be part of Charlie's, but the other partners have been replaced with a Marine from Bemidji that is going to be significantly expanding their operations here.
I don't see us losing a whole lot by giving them the 66 feet. And, I mean, gaining a little bit in the park space, because it's never gonna be truly utilized as a park at this point in time, I guess.
Right.
Because if we did expand any more apartments in that area, it would be nice for them to have their own little recreation area. But my concern is if that portion that goes between Fleet's parking lot and Charlie's, if that's improved, I mean, that's gonna put a lot of congestion right on Highway 34 with entrances from both sides of the highway. And it's bad enough now. I mean, if we're throwing more cars into that mix, there's a high likelihood of even more accidents happening in that location. Granted, that is the city's choice,
And
but
at
I
this.
don't wanna influence.
Right, and I
something.
agree with you, and it is the city's choice, and part of that is for, a couple things, is number one, the Highway 34 isn't scheduled for any kind of reconstruction until like 35 or something, at which point they may need to do something different, but as it stands right now, the only way to get to 34 from that entire development is through career path. And so it's actually, the hope is that it will split some of that traffic between the two roads, and realistically, some people will actually choose to go out Charles and go to Henrietta because they're gonna have a stoplight.
Yep.
So I foresee that they're actually, by doing it this way, that there is a tendency to go straight north, but I know, I always come to Fourth to come to the county because I know there's 4 stoplights or stop signs at Fourth and Main, so I don't have to worry about traffic. I would imagine that there's gonna be a fair amount of people who will do that too, that they'll come down Alice, go out on Charles, and then be able to access 34, just
Everybody-
because there's a
Especially if
stoplight.
you're going left.
Everybody likes the path of least resistance,
Right.
and I see that route between Charlie's and L&M being their path of least resistance. That's where they're gonna go.
Although some
But if
of
there's
us
3
use
people
it all
waiting
the
there, you're gonna
time.
go the other way.
You'll do
Yeah,
that once or
that's true.
twice in
Yeah.
July, and then
Wow.
you'll go to the stoplight, especially
I
if you
do
want
that
to.
exact same thing and go to that stoplight.
I've literally come out of there in the summer and just turn right anyhow
Well-
until
Yeah,
I can
just to
get
get
to a
out.
light, and then turn around so I can,
But not everybody
Can't get a
thinks
left turn
like
there
that.
most
it's
of the time.
faster than sitting there.
And I agree, and under all of the scenarios that are available to us, this is actually one of the best. And the fact is that we're gonna have federal grant money to pay for it, because our bid for the rest of it was so good that, we're able to incorporate that additional road work without assessing any of the adjacent property owners for the work.
I do have a question. When Jeff just moved this map down, off of Commission Street, there's a green dashed line going across. Is that a proposed improved street access in the future, or is it?
So right now, it is strictly an easement for the last property owner on that parcel. We believe, or the city believes, that you'll notice that Commission is coming actually a little south of that. They're going to have to put in a road at some point, and it'll probably be the responsibility of whoever develops that parcel there.
Okay.
That will be required to connect the road from Commission out to Henrietta as well.
Which there's a lot of possibilities there.
Right, and we actually tried to acquire the easement when we were building out this property, and the property owner was not willing to sell any of it, only all of it, and he wanted
Oh.
like 5 times the
Sure.
value of it.
Yeah,
So we couldn't make it happen.
Yeah,
We
okay.
tried.
all right.
What do we need, a motion to approve?
The only thing, you know, how does this impact the purchaser of the lot?
It positively impacts him because now he doesn't have to build the road. So, Otherwise, he would.
Square footage wise.
Right, it won't
Is-
impact him
is
any
he still
because
gonna
it will
be-
be on ours.
The 66 foot is all within our.
Okay.
the-
On ours and not on
HRA
his.
parcel.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my question too, is if the parcel we just sold, if they were gonna take 33
Yeah,
feet from there.
I'd be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, no, that's not the intention. So it will be all on the HRA parcel. And he is actually thrilled because now he's gonna have really great access to his spot, so.
I like that the city's gonna be improving these areas here. So do we need a motion then to,
Yes, please.
I will make that motion.
thank you, Shar.
Second.
Thank you, David. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries. And if we're done with that one, then we'll go on to 7D, discussion of potential sale of property for development. We got 2 parcels to look at.
Start with yours.
Sure. I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna skip that. So the conversation here is about, and I'm gonna drag this over, is about, the parcels that the HRA EDA acquired in Fardin Township. And this is kind of a zoomed-in section of that. This is the existing railroad line that runs across where the X is at the railroad crossing and runs east and west. And this top 80 acres that's shown as lots 11 through 19 and then some grayed out area is the parcel that we needed to get access through this, back to this 40 and 80, 120 acres that we got, because this 40 is privately owned, right? So we needed access to get through here, so we took these 160, 200 acres of tax forfeited land and did that. Now, our intention was never that any commercial or industrial, overly commercial or industrial things were gonna happen up here in the residential neighborhood on the south side of 500th Street. So in kind of reviewing the drawings of this preliminary concept for what the EDA park would look like, WSN asked, why don't you lot these out and sell these? And I had a conversation with Tim up in Fardin Township, and he thought it was a fantastic idea to lot those off and sell them. So this is a representation of that. I'm not sure if it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 lots, or if it'd be 8 lots, or whatever it would be. The fact that they all have frontage on 500th Street means that we don't really have any regulations. It means they could be bought and developed as homes. They could be bought and held as empty space for future. Somebody could buy 3 of them and put up a series of toy storage sheds and rent them out. I think they could do that.
I'll accept that.
I'll accept this part that's in the shoreland. So this little orange angle is in the shoreland. They wouldn't be able to run a business on those portions of lot 11 or lot 12. But, so if somebody wanted to put up a shop and open up and run their plumbing shop out of one of these or 2 of these lots, they'd be able to do that as well as basically as a,
Potentially could have 8 approaches onto 500th.
this is actually showing 9, yep. But these are 3.1 acres, so they're
Pretty good size.
pretty good size. They're, I can't actually measure them, but, so they're about 2, it looks, just skip that. It looks based on, it really doesn't like me doing that. It looks like they're about 200 foot of frontage on each,
Yeah.
so they would not be, I don't think they'd be obtrusive.
What do you, I know there hasn't been a price decided, but do you have any idea?
I sent this to Eric Wolf and asked him if he wouldn't mind giving us an idea of what they would be. The intention would be We wouldn't discount these. We would sell these relatively at what we think the market would be, because we're not saying you have to build a house on there
Right.
within 12 months.
Well, and especially if they can build anything.
They can build anything.
People might not want to build houses.
They might just want to have 4 acres, right? So I think the proposal would be that we would offer those at something close to market.
That we could get money there for our capital projects, I think.
And truthfully, that could generate some funds to come back and do some of the planning that we need to do relative to this park. I will just say, relative to this extra 80 that we didn't take at this point, what we identified as possible future, this road comes in and through and stops here, because it could connect around back here if that were ever the case. And it also allows for the fact that one of the primary reasons we did this is we had heard that there were people that were looking for 100-acre lots. So if this gets started and somebody says we're looking for 100 acres, we say, well, here's 80. We may not have to build the road because it would come right to them anyway. So this is kind of the first plan on how to lot those out, and what that development might look like. We're still not at the point that we're asking for money on that. We are at the point where we're gonna be working with WSN for the crossings, the design of this road to get here, and a budget to make this possible, I think is kind of the next steps with WSN. And then that would be the limits of what we engage them to do at this point in time, would be to come up with the preliminary design concepts to improve the crossing at 101st, or 100 County Road 101, eliminate the crossing at 315 and 323, and then provide this connecting road along the bottom from 101 to 315. Tim doesn't think there's any need to connect 323rd again, that it could just dead end. That's a conversation, that's a design issue. As I understand it, there's only one driveway on 323rd, and they primarily use County Road 9 as an access and don't go north from there, so. So that would be the limits of what WSN was contracted to do, would be to show the road design, the improvements, identify some of the improvements that were talked about at the last meeting. And then we would work with a surveyor to identify the corners, determine these parcels, plat the parcels, and then offer them for sale.
Because this is a different market than the Park Rapids area, do we want to reach out to somebody in the Bemidji area that would maybe give an assessment on what these would be valued at?
We certainly could. We can get another number.
I don't know what we pay Wolf to do this, but a big fat.
So if we can find someone else that we pay nothing to do these things for, that'd be fantastic.
My only question would be better off selling those as larger lots, combining two, making one parcel, so you'd have, instead of 9, you'd have, half of that number.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is that this is the most flexible route, because if somebody says, I want to buy 11, 12, and 13, then when they buy them, they can combine them in the process and have only one parcel ID. Part of the market assessment would be to determine if 3 to 4 acres is a saleable amount of land. My guess is, and Tim's thought was that people would snap those up pretty quick.
I know there's people that live on the north side of 500th that have already reached out to me. I didn't write their names down though, but asked if in the future, if ever these became available, if they would be able to buy them. And I said, most certainly.
Part of the process would be, and Mary's gonna talk about this, I think, a little bit, but part of the process for us to sell these lots means at some point we have to set a price, that we have to have a hearing to say that this is it's good to sell these. With this one, we had a specific parcel in mind and we had a sale. So we had a hearing relative to that buyer. We can have a general hearing relative to the sale, the disposition of parcels that the EDA owns. And then we wouldn't have a Park Rapids broker list these parcels. We would have somebody from up in that area list these parcels. And then we would just hands off, say they sell them at the minimum price that, at least the minimum price that's set by the board, and then they handle the transaction, and then we're done with them. Much like we're planning on doing with the stuff down in Heartland Heights that, once now they're platted, they're actually showing up on the screen as platted, so the GIS stuff is pretty current. So that would be the intention. A lot of the specific details haven't exactly worked out yet. My intention was to go up to Farden Township meeting. I think they have one next Tuesday, the second Tuesday of every month is when they have their meetings. No, it's May 12th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the second Tuesday in May, so that I would go up to that meeting and just share the intention with this before we proceed, and then probably come back here the end of May to ask you, as this board that owns these parcels, for permission to move forward with that process.
Okay. And let's see, we don't need any motions or anything on this?
We don't. I wanted you to hear it, and then I want to take the fact that we discussed this up to Farden Township, and once we have their input, then I'll come back and ask you for action.
Okay. And I will love to be there.
I will confirm that we can do that on that date.
Okay, perfect. Okay, if we're done with that then, director's report.
Well, before that, we do have additional parcel. I handed that out. It is the parcel that or there's actually two parcels that you own on 3rd Street. I had someone reach out to me actually yesterday wondering if the HRA would be interested in making that parcel available for sale. And I said, again, that we could have a conversation here and confirm that and then decide which of the paths that you would want to go. So we have either the RFP process where we can submit an RFP for development and sell the lot, or we can have a discussion where we set the price and then have the hearing. Either way, we have to have a public hearing, but sort of when the hearing occurs is really what triggers that. This parcel was bought quite some time ago. You paid $30,000 for it, and we've had no specific idea in mind what to do with it. It's bare land and it's just sitting there. At some point it did have buildings on it, because as you can see from the picture, there's a parking lot or something that was there. So again, really it's just about, do you have some interest in potentially seeing if we can sell this parcel?
Board's wishes? I know I wouldn't be opposed to selling
About
it.
all that? I thought we sold that.
No, there was interest,
Yeah.
but we didn't do anything with it.
No, we didn't.
There was never serious talk.
No.
So,
I mean, if we don't have a plan for it and it's not identified in any future investment, then I guess I don't have an issue with it. It'd be nice to get private ownership, tax dollars coming in,
Back, yeah.
but
And money that we could throw at other EDA, HRA projects, yep.
Right.
Yeah, because you know whoever's buying it, they're not just gonna sit on it, they're probably gonna develop it, and then that
Right.
increases the tax base for Park Rapids and Hubbard County.
Yeah, and this would be a commercial development
Okay, even better.
that would be, that has interest in this parcel.
and zoning and everything is compatible with,
Yeah, it's,
Supposedly what they'd
it's
bring forward.
zoned 3A commercial.
okay.
The larger parcel is .71 acres, and then that small little thing is .11 acres. There is an assessment. When the city did 3rd Street, those parcels got assessed. So there's still, we're paying on our actual annual tax bill for that assessment, and so there's a balance that we would want to continue on to the new owner. So we would no longer be responsible for that.
Yeah, it would be nice if they just roll that into whatever their loan would be and just pay that assessment off.
Yep,
Be done with it,
yep.
satisfy all the needs.
I don't see any issue with selling it. I mean, just finish off that block.
Well, I'll reach out and get a market price for it, and then, we can figure out what to do with that
Are we
then.
concerned with any encroachments?
I think that the smaller parcel, is, could have some potential, but otherwise I don't think that there's
Well, I'm just
gonna be-
looking at the north, the rough drawn property line.
Yes,
It looks like there might be concern there, and that this is being used as an entry and alternate entry and exit from the, whatever that building is
Right.
utilized
And
for, so we'd have to
I'm-
clean that up.
I'm guessing it would be.
I just,
Okay,
just
All right.
discussion purposes.
Yes, absolutely.
we got a consensus going here, so
Perfect.
now we'll do the director's report.
And I don't have a lot other than a couple things is the community visioning process is continuing on that you aren't directly a part of, but that some commissioners are, that are moving along. And I signed the contract for the construction of Heartland Heights today and the proceed to work order. So off it goes.
It's better than cease and desist.
Yes, it is. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Does
And
anybody-
just one thing, I did notice when I've gone past Regency that they are making progress on the decks. I mean, they're not all done, but, the winter really obviously slowed them down a lot, but yeah, they are making some decent progress on them, so.
Good.
Just thought I'd mention it.
And if there's nothing else, I'll get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
David? Thank you, Tom. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.